Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I apologize for not being here on the front end. I missed your testimony. I was hoping to hear more, but candidly, when I read through the written testimony provided in advance, I found it so vague I couldn't really take anything away from it. I mean, if we were playing MBA jargon bingo, we'd have maxed out the card. I mean, there's every buzzword known to man in here, but very light on specifics. So I'm just kind of following up on obviously you can tell there's a sense of frustration among the committee here, but Mr. Evans, you'd mentioned with respect to the reset a couple times, things like we're going back to the drawing board, or as we find a new strategy. Could you be more specific with that? Because there's a growing frustration that we've got an open checkbook and we're spending billions of dollars every year. And I'm curious to know from your perspective, is this a failure from Oracle's perspective to deliver? Is this the VA crawfishing and moving the goalpost at every turn on what it wants, what it's looking for? Is it some combination? But how are we going to get to a point where we can deliver for the veterans out there who honestly, and I talked to them in the district, they honestly feel they're all going to be dead before this happens?
Yeah, if I could ask so I think what you're asking is specifically, for example, what are we accomplishing in the reset, or what does it take?
Well, that too. And when we talk about setting a new strategy, who is the person specific for that strategy?
So
who signs off on that and says, yep, this is our new strategy going forward. This is what we've learned from the reset, and here's how we're going to fix the problem. Who's got the final say on that?
Right. Okay. So I think specific to the strategy, right? One of the things that we've talked about is we need to build the expertise inside of VA to own and drive what this looks like for us in the future from a perspective. So Oracle is sitting to my left. We need and are dependent on the vendor, but we need to be able to drive this and understand what good looks like with regard to the EHR. That's an area that we are focusing on. We need to revisit what our deployment strategy looks like. Should we be deploying multiple medical centers at a time? How do we sequence this in order to implement the record?
So the strategy to this point clearly didn't work, and that was trying to roll it out to too many too fast. Is that?
I think we've learned a lot from our first 5 deployments, and again, I don't think we've arrived yet at a conclusion, but if we were to line up 160 or 159 more medical centers and do them in sequence, this is going to take a long time to get done. And so, Dr. Neverker, you have some thoughts? Please.
So the main strategy shift is treating this as a change management project first and a technology management second. So that, and again, that kind of goes back to Mr. Kaler's questions as well. What's different? What's the same with all these other healthcare systems? What are we going to do differently? So let me just walk you through this. So the difference is we had a current state review of what's going on at the sites. Well, originally that was a Cerner task where Cerner sent out its people to say, okay, what's going on with the technology? Well, that's just a small piece of the puzzle. Now we're going out and saying, how are you doing your work? And then how does that work need to change? That information then gets rolled out to the people we're training the system on to say, this is how you have to change your work. Second, we are actually verifying with the VA people that the configuration is working. We're running through workflows, say, okay, not just how do you enter an order, how do you do the technology, how do you accomplish primary care? You're checking in the patient, you're doing the front desk, then you're sending them to the nurse, then you're sending them to the physician, then you're doing a checkout review with the pharmacist, and then you're doing a checkout review at the desk. So it's the human process integration that is new, and we're doing much more aggressively. So finally, the training. So the training, and we'll, I'm sure, have an opportunity to talk about training a lot in future questions, is we are looking at the entire journey of the train. It's not just how do you enter an order, how do you do a referral, how do I look up a lab test. It's the training is how do you use the technology, how do you use the technology in your workflow, and then how do you create shortcuts that work for you. There's little key shortcuts you can enter in 2 or 3 keys and get stuff done faster. And then also we're looking at adoption. how we're having at the elbow support as people, more aggressively as people are there. So they have a peer, another physician, another nurse, or another expert who can say, hey, this is how I see you're doing it this way. Maybe if you did it this way, you'd save, 5 minutes of your time trying to, instead of being frustrated. And then finally, we monitor the system. Oracle has really excellent tools for monitoring the behaviors as people are using the system to identify people who don't quite get it. And so then we can, my team then and the field health informatics staff at the facility can say, hey, we've identified some people. Let us proactively reach out to you to help you use the system better. So these are just a sample of what we're doing differently now to make things work. Some of that we've fully implemented, some of it we've partially implemented.
Thank you, and I yield back.